The Untold Story of Ken Langone. Pain built a billionaire. What if I told you the man who built an $8 billion empire once lived with the fear that his parents would lose their home just so he could go to school? What if his entire future rested on a debt his family could never afford, and failure meant disaster? This is the untold emotional rise of Ken Langone, and it begins in the shadows. The dark beginning. In the shadowed alleys of Roslyn Heights, New York, during the crushing weight of the Great Depression, a boy named Kenneth Gerard Langone entered a world where hope came second to survival. Born in 1935 to Italian immigrant parents, life was never gentle. His father, a plumber, came home with bleeding hands. His mother, a cafeteria worker, stretched leftovers so her children wouldn't go hungry. The walls of their tiny home felt like they were closing in. Bills stacked on the table like enemies. The silence in the house wasn't peaceful. It was defeat wearing a mask. But young Ken watched and learned. He saw sacrifice. He felt pain. And in those long nights, he whispered promises only the broken can understand. I will rise, not in spite of this pain, but because of it. The years of struggle. As Ken grew older, the pressure grew heavier. His family mortgaged their modest home to send him to Bucknell University. It wasn't just tuition. It was the weight of their belief sitting on his shoulders. While other students relaxed, Ken dug ditches. Ken caddied for wealthy golfers. Ken worked until his muscles throbbed and his hands shook. Every night he went to bed with the same fear. If I fail, my family loses everything. Loneliness followed him into his dorm room. The kids around him looked polished, privileged, confident, but Ken carried the burden of survival, and it made him unstoppable. After Bucknell, he entered NYU Stern, attending night classes while working during the day, fighting exhaustion tooth and nail. Discipline became his superpower. Hard work became his language. Pain became his fuel. The Wall Street Wars. By the 1960s, Wall Street called a world of wolves. Ken joined R.W. Pressprick & Co. Deals collapsed. Bosses dismissed him. Rejection became routine. But Ken, he was built in the fire of the Depression. Wall Street couldn't break him. In 1968, he took a massive risk and convinced Ross Perot to take electronic data systems public, a move so bold it shocked the industry. By 1969, he became president. But storms returned. The firm struggled. People doubted him again. Ken refused to fold. In 1974, he founded Invamed Associates, carving his place in venture capital with grit sharper than steel. Then came the moment history would remember. He backed Bernard Marcus and Arthur Blank, financing a crazy idea called Home Depot. But Ken had seen impossible his whole life, and he built empires from it. Home Depot exploded across America, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs and building Ken's fortune to over $8 billion. At the time, people laughed. Too big, too risky, impossible. The heart that gave back. Ken never forgot the boy he once was. The hunger, the fear, the sacrifices. So he poured his wealth into NYU Langone Health, donating hundreds of millions, making medical school tuition free for every student. He uplifted Bucknell, the Animal Medical Center, and countless charities. A devout Catholic, he was knighted by the Pope, recognized for a lifetime of compassion rooted in childhood suffering. The legacy of an unbreakable life, from poverty-stricken alleys, from nights filled with fear, from the crushing weight of expectations. Ken Langone rose with courage as his compass, discipline as his rope, hard work as his wings, At 90 years old, his legacy roars like thunder across boardrooms, universities, and hospitals. His story is a reminder to every soul still living in the shadows. Pain is not your prison. Pain is the engine that can lift you to heights you never imagined. Rise, because your story is still being written. On this channel, Pain is My Fuel. We share the untold stories of people who rose from struggle to greatness. Shahid Khan, John Paul DeJoria, Prem Watsa, Ursula Burns, Hyde Hyodo Shimizu, Ken Langone, and many more. Subscribe for more powerful stories of courage, resilience, and unstoppable success.